Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki. Welcome to the show, Utah Home Sweet Home, and our very special guest today is my friend and attorney, Jeff Bralio.
How you doing, Yoshi?
Hey, how are you? Good. Yes, we're actually out of the house. Yeah. Exactly. All right, guys, you're going to definitely want to stay tuned because a lot is going on in the real estate industry right now due to this COVID-19. Tenants not being able to make their rent payments. If you're a tenant and you think that you might struggle making your rent payment, you are definitely not going to want to go away. You're going to want to listen to today's show. If you're a landlord and you're worried about your tenant not making a payment because you need that money to make your mortgage payment, you're definitely going to want to stay in touch and listen to the rest of the show as well. We're going to be talking about all the legalities of how this pandemic is affecting people's ability to pay the rent, the eviction process, what's going on with that. If you don't pay your rent now, you may or may have not heard that the governor has froze the ability to evict tenants for a period of time. Small period, but for a period of time, which obviously is beneficial to the tenants who have lost employment, but there are a lot of landlords that are concerned because they still have to make that mortgage payment. We'll also be going over a nightmare story on evictions and what you should do if you are a landlord who has a tenant who can't pay your rent, and what you should do if you're a tenant who is struggling to pay the rent. So we're going to be talking about both sides of the fence. All right. Well, Jeff has been on my show numerous times now.
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah. And so...
It's always fun to come talk to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So Jeff is, as I mentioned, a real estate attorney. He's also a real estate investor who owns both residential and commercial real estate and totally understands what being a landlord is all about. So that's why I thought it would be very fitting to have Jeff be a guest today to share, his opinion on legalities of what's happening and being a landlord.
Share.
Wonderful. All right, so let's dive into this, Jeff. I'm gonna ask you the first question. I mean, for those who are not in the real estate industry, they might not know quite the buzz that's been happening. But for us who are in the real estate industry, I mean, there's a webinar every day by somebody.
There is. Yeah, if you're in real estate and not on Facebook, you're missing out.
Yes.
There are hundreds and hundreds of either live webinars or Facebook Lives or postings on Facebook regarding everything that's going on in real estate. The investor community has been really superb in this, in getting information out and being proactive and trying to stay ahead of the curve. And so it is, my Facebook feed is plastered.
Yes.
I could spend all day learning stuff right now.
Absolutely.
And if you're sitting at home, what else you got going on? You might as well be learning something new.
So true. And with things changing so quickly,
you really do need to stay updated.
You really do need to stay updated.
We'll talk about that when we get into the details of why it's important. You'll need to stay updated.
Yes, I totally agree. All right, so let's dive into this first question. Question that's been getting asked a lot through the social media of the InvestorNet groups and Facebook. What was the latest news from the governor on being able to evict tenants who can no longer pay their rent who live in your rental properties due to obviously job losses that are happening?
Well, we got to take a step back, actually, before we even talk about the governor's executive order or a few days ago.
Okay.
Because the CARES Act, which was the federal bill that was passed about a week ago, that most of us know as the free checks that are going to be coming in a few weeks.
Yes.
The direct deposits to taxpayers. There are SBA loans, which we'll talk about in there, and there's some other benefits for landlords that might help landlords that are in that package.
Wonderful.
But that package also covers eviction.
Ah.
And as federal law, it will override state law. You actually have to determine whether or not the federal law applies, and then if it doesn't, does the Utah law apply?
Interesting.
And one thing you have to understand about all laws, essentially, is that they go through a legislative process where a legislative body deliberates and passes a bill, right? Creates a law.
Yes.
And that's what Congress did a week ago with the CARES Act.
Got it.
The law then goes to the different governmental departments, who actually create the systems and processes to make it happen, right? We know that the taxpayer is going to get a big check.
Yes.
Right? But the Treasury Department is overseeing that, so they're the ones writing the systems and processes on how to get the money out to the people. Some money's going, will go to banks, and banks then through the Treasury Department will decide how they're going to do the SBA loans. So a lot of this still needs to shake out to get all the clarity on exactly what's going on.
Got it.
So that's why I do want to really recommend anything we say today
Yeah.
could literally change
That's so
tomorrow.
true.
Okay?
That's so true.
But what we kind of know now, and I was on a conference call yesterday with a local eviction attorney.
Mm-hmm.
So the federal law, and it does ban evictions, so it's stopping evictions for 120 days. That's the next 4 months.
Got it.
And whether or not the federal, so the first thing you have to do is, does the federal law apply to my rental property and my tenants?
Gotcha.
Okay. The federal law applies to all property that have a federally backed mortgage on them.
Gotcha.
So this is a mortgage that's backed by Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, HUD, the VA.
Got it.
And that covers about 80% of all mortgages in the country.
Gotcha.
So you have to ask yourself, does my rental property have a mortgage? If you own your rental property free and clear, you are not covered by the federal law.
Ah.
Okay?
Gotcha.
If you've got any mortgage on it, even in a seller finance deal, that mortgage is tied to that property. And that mortgage then, if it's federally backed, you are subject to the federal law.
Got it.
And the federal law has stopped evictions for the next 4 months.
Got it.
Now, when we say stopped evictions, that just means you can't evict. And as of yesterday, what the attorney was saying was that the local eviction courts have just stopped even taking applications.
Okay.
Because they know the federal law is going to shut down most, and the state, we'll talk about the state as well.
Yep.
And so really they're just not even taking applications right now.
Got it.
My guess is in a few days, and they kind of work through this, if these laws don't apply to you, they will start accepting those applications. Again, we're just still waiting for sort of how this all is going to play out.
Got it.
So really, that federal law is going to apply to almost all rental property.
Got it.
If they have a mortgage on it, and their mortgage is federally backed, then there's a stay on evictions for 4 months, 120 days.
Got it.
Now, that is not any kind of rent payment relief.
Right.
It's
Okay.
not saying that tenants don't have to pay rent. That is not the case.
It's just saying they're not going to get evicted.
They can't get evicted for
Right.
non-payment.
Right.
So really, right now, the way it's planned out is they can't be evicted for anything.
Got it.
Okay. Now that may change in the next few days and few weeks and even months.
Right.
Of what other evictions may go forward.
Got it.
Okay. So if you are in a situation where you need to evict a tenant and you can't, again, hang on. It may, a few weeks more, a lot of this will shake out. But that does not relieve your tenants from paying you the rent or from you keeping track of how much rent they owe you over the next 4 months.
Got it.
Okay?
Got it.
So don't think that you can still collect the rent. It's got nothing to do with rent forbearance.
Right.
The government, to help tenants pay their rent, is those checks.
Gotcha.
Right? The $1,200 or $2,400, et cetera. It's going to the American public. That is so that the American public has cash that they can pay their rent or bills.
Got it.
So that's how the federal government is currently helping tenants, is through those direct payments through the Treasury Department. And then we can talk a little bit later how things that can benefit the landlord.
Got it.
Okay, so that's the federal law.
Okay.
And so pretty much most evictions for 80% of all rental properties out there, if they have a mortgage on it, and most most properties do have mortgages these days.
Yes.
Very few are owned free and clear.
Right.
So even if that doesn't apply, the federal law does not apply to you, the state law has a 6-week freeze, or lawyers call a stay, on evictions until May 15th.
Okay.
But only if your tenants were caught up as of March.
Okay.
They paid March's rent. They were totally fine coming April 1st.
Yep.
And now suddenly in April, they can't pay rent due to COVID-19.
Got it.
So they either have gotten sick,
Yes.
or they were told not to come to work because
Right.
of COVID-19, or they lost a job because of COVID-19. So it has to be COVID-19 related.
And it has to be proven, right? If I
It has
understood,
to be proven. Yes.
yeah, you have to
can get
prove
documented
it.
and prove it that you are affected by COVID-19.
Yes.
And for that reason, you are unable to pay your rent.
Right.
Then the eviction process is stalled until May 15th.
Got it.
Okay. But again, most people are going to be covered by the federal law, and that's 4 months.
Gotcha. Okay.
And again, the state law doesn't say anything about forgiving rent.
Yes.
It's just preventing evictions for a few weeks.
You still owe it.
The tenants still owe the rent.
Yes, that makes sense. So let's assume that, 4 months goes by, you're struggling finding employment, you now owe 4 months of rent, you have been relieved of being evicted. What's going to happen on that 5th month typically?
My guess is the evictions are going to skyrocket.
Got it. That's my guess too.
Yeah. The evictions are going to absolutely skyrocket.
Gotcha.
And the courts are probably going to be clogged up. It's probably going to take much longer to evict. Utah has a very quick eviction process naturally, but there will be an absolute backlog.
Got it.
Okay. But there's some things. Let's talk about what to do in the meantime.
Okay.
Okay. Because again, this is just stopping the eviction process. This has nothing to do with your lease.
Yes.
The terms of your lease.
Right.
The rent payment, late fee.
Right.
All these other things that are in your lease agreement.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
You can still hold your tenants to everything in the lease agreement.
Got it.
But what we're recommending is that landlords really work with their tenants.
Got it.
Okay? Because if they've had good tenants and now they're just something happened, they got sick or they lost their job, they're in the retail industry or the food industry, the travel industry, they're now out of work.
Yes.
And when the healthcare crisis passes, and it will pass.
Yes.
Then people can go back to work, and they probably will. So they probably will have income after that. So you've got this time period first of dealing with the health issues, where people physically are banned from going into work.
Yes.
And then we've got the economic recession that's almost certainly going to come out of this afterwards.
Right.
Okay. So what we're recommending is landlords really should work with their tenants. They've been good tenants. They had good jobs. They lost their jobs due to the virus, and most likely they're going to get their jobs back.
Right.
Okay? You can work with your tenants for the next 2 to 4 months. You can do things like put them on maybe a payment schedule,
Okay.
a reduced monthly rent,
Okay.
waive late fees if they're late
Good
on
idea.
payment, and or defer rent.
Yeah.
So you can say, you normally pay $1,000 for the next 4 months. Your rent is only $500.
Got it.
I'm going to forgive you the other $500.
Oh.
Or you can say, for the next 4 months, can you make half payment? If they say yes, say, okay, that's great. You can make a $500 payment, and I'm going to defer the other $500 until later, and we'll work out a payment plan once you're back at work.
Got it.
Because you really want to keep good tenants.
Absolutely.
They've been good. They've been good to you,
Yes.
right? And you want to be good to them. This is no time, I've said this a million times, this is no time to be greedy.
Absolutely.
If you start being greedy, everyone will
yes.
start being greedy,
Yes.
and it will actually make things much worse.
Absolutely. And in general, landlords don't want to evict tenants.
No, it's a pain and time consuming and loss of rent and all of that.
All of that. Yeah, and especially good ones. They're beneficial to the landlord.
That's right. And so, but whatever you do with your tenants, do it in writing. Say, due to the coronavirus, due to the health crisis, due to whatever,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Landlord is agreeing to reduce your rent, defer your rent, waive late fee. Whatever it is that your benefit you're giving to your tenants,
Yes.
put it into writing.
Yes.
Make it very clear, is this rent forgiveness? Is this rent deferral?
Right.
If you do this verbally with your tenants, I guarantee you in 4 months, and you're trying to evict them,
Yep.
they're going to say, no, he waived rent for the
Exactly.
last 4 months, didn't defer it.
Yes.
And I don't owe him, my landlord, the 4 months rent because he said he was going to forgive it, and you, the landlord, say, no, it was just a deferral.
Yes.
And you're going to lose that battle.
Exactly.
So put it into writing.
Good idea.
Date it. When does the lease go back to its normal term? So it's clear that
Yep.
this is a temporary lease modification, and get your tenants to sign it. and then hold them to it.
Got it.
If they don't stick to that, my guess is they're probably going to be a bigger problem. And at that point, you may want to say, okay, these are people I'm going to have to evict. But at least you have something to hold them to and substantiate when you do get to the eviction process.
Got it. Okay, perfect. And I wanted to just double check on this. So let's just assume tenants fall 4 months behind, and they, at that point, can't come up with it, don't want to come up with it, whatever the situation. They could still go to collections, right? The landlord could put them through collections.
Absolutely.
So it's not like you're just going to move out and got 4 months for free.
Again, nothing so far has relieved any tenant of paying any rent.
Got it. Yes.
Okay. So yes, you can still collect. Now let's talk reality.
Yeah.
If someone got that far behind, is not getting their job back, might be unemployed for a long time, you can't squeeze water from a rock.
Oh, exactly.
And so you'll need to make a determination. Is it worth going after?
Right.
And the local eviction attorney, FYI, I actually learned this a few years ago because I'm really good friends with the eviction attorneys. Is that most eviction attorneys make 80 to 90% of their income from collections, not the legal fees to do the eviction. The eviction is almost a freebie given away. So that they can get the collection. So there are attorneys and eviction attorneys that will do the collection, and it doesn't cost you anything.
Got it.
They'll take a cut.
Yes.
Of whatever they call.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Okay, great. Wow, super information. We could wrap the show right now, and I think you gave enough information out there. Okay, well, we're not going to wrap the show. We're going to dive into the next question here. So, this now goes to the landlord. We're talking about, the tenant right now having 4 months of
knowing they're going to have a home.
Exactly. The landlord is now put in a sticky situation where he's got 4 mortgage payments of this 4 months that he has to make. And a lot of people depend on that rental income to pay that. So what should the landlord do if they now cannot pay the mortgage payment? Because at the end of the day, if they get foreclosed on, they're going to lose the house, and so will the tenant, because the tenant will have to move out now because the landlord lost the home.
And then there's a foreclosure.
Yes.
And which is, of course, auction sales, fire sales.
Yes.
And they go at very low prices. And that begins to pull the pricing of the housing market down. That's what happened in 2008. As the foreclosures kicked in, there were so many ways to buy super cheap homes that all the prices of all the homes started coming down, and that's kind of crashed.
Yes.
There are some things that have come out that will help landlords, and a lot of this, again, is still being worked out.
Okay.
So the first one is the small business loan, or SBA loans, that from the Federal CARES Act. The SBA loans, so a bunch of money is going to all FDIC-insured banks, which pretty much most banks in the country. Mm-hmm. And they're getting this cash to provide out as small business loans. And these loans are forgivable.
Okay.
If the money is used for payroll and certain essential utility bills like rent and utilities. And that, I think that's still being worked out. But the payroll part is true, that if the money is used to cover your payroll and you don't fire the employees, you keep your employees on, you pay your employee. You got this free money to keep your payroll active, and it's just to keep people getting their monthly checks.
Gotcha.
Okay. If you're a real estate investor, landlord, you are a small business owner.
Right.
So you could be able to apply for these SBA loans.
Okay.
And get money. So the question is, and again, the purpose of this was to keep your payroll going.
Got it.
And so the question is, do you have a payroll? Now, everyone, if you're a landlord, you have an LLC, and you manage your own apartments, your own houses, you are a small business owner.
Right.
You own that business and you're managing and running it.
Got it.
I did see that the banks just got sort of their final rules from the Treasury Department just like yesterday, Friday. Mm-hmm. And last night and today, they're scrambling to put together their list of requirements to apply for the loan.
Got it.
And I've seen some of those preliminary lists, and one of almost the top thing on the list on all of those lists is evidence of your payroll for the last months. So it may come out that you must have been paying yourself a salary.
Got it.
It does apply to even just sole proprietorships.
Yes.
But whether or not you have to pay yourself an actual salary through a payroll company, or whether you could just show your draws, how much money you take out each month.
Right.
So that is still a question, and we should probably have answers today on that, if not by Monday.
Got it.
So for that, what you need to do is talk to your bank where you keep your business checking.
Okay.
Work with the bank that's already got your business account.
Got it.
That's who would provide you the loan. So don't go to any bank. Don't start calling every bank. That's going to be a waste of your time.
Got it.
If you have business checking accounts,
Yes.
you probably have already gotten emails. I have a number of business accounts that
Yes.
a number of different banks.
Yes.
So I've already gotten a bunch of them.
Right.
And so most banks are really been good about getting the information out. Hey, you can get these loans.
Got it.
So check out your bank where you do your business checking about the CARES Act, payroll, something, SBA loan.
Gotcha.
There's a word in there, but it's and every bank knows what it is.
Okay.
And they probably have it on their website.
Got it. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
That's true.
So that's one. There is, and I was really hoping to kind of verify this, but I didn't get into I haven't read the CARES Act. It's like, I don't know how many thousands of pages long. And I'm trying to get access to some, the CPA's analysis. But what we're also hearing in that CARES Act is that they changed the rules on deducting passive losses. And every landlord knows about passive losses. That's why we hold rental properties.
Yes.
Is the depreciation,
Right.
which saves us money on taxes every year. But those passive losses are capped for most people, most investors.
Right.
And so they can't claim all their losses.
Got it.
What they've done, apparently, and this we'll know probably more in the next 3 to 5 days, is that they have retroactively made the passive losses unlimited. And going back to 2018 and 2019 and 2020. So it's possible you may be able to revise or amend your previous tax return, claim more losses, and then be able to get bigger deductions.
Interesting.
If you haven't filed 2019, because 2019 taxes aren't due until July.
Right.
Or for 2020. So there may be ways to save money there.
Got it.
And there may be, and we don't know, some states have done this, and more states may do this, is an actual where banks, like with, we can defer rent to our tenants. Banks can defer the mortgage payment.
Got it.
And many banks have already done this.
Got it.
Some states are requiring that banks do this, and we'll kind of see how this plays out over the next few weeks. So it is possible that your bank with your mortgage may let you skip some payments. Now,
Got
again,
it.
it's not free money. You're not waiving the payment.
Yeah.
It's a deferral.
Gotcha.
What they'll do is they'll just add 3 months on to the end of your loan term.
Right. That makes
So you
sense.
skip the next 3 months of payments, but then you're paying for another 3 months on the end of the
Got it.
kind of thing. So there are some things that will help landlords as well.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Let's talk about those just homeowners that they're not investors. They just own a home, can't pay their mortgage because they're out of work right now. And of course, they're a little bit nervous because they don't know when they're going to be able to work again. Any advice to the homeowners who find themselves in the difficult situation due to the lack of funds to pay their mortgage?
Yeah. First, the checks, see if you're going to qualify for receiving those checks.
Okay.
I would, if you got those checks, use them for your core expenses.
Okay.
And talk to your mortgage bank.
Okay.
To see if they're one of the banks that is deferring payments or giving some kind of relief to homeowners. And there may be some relief there.
Wonderful. Okay, great. Excellent. Last question before we go to commercial break. What should tenants be doing to best prepare to prevent, they don't want to move. They love their home. However, they've fallen behind on payments for whatever reason, loss of income. What should they be doing right now to prepare to prevent being evicted once the eviction freeze ends?
Be honest.
Okay.
Be honest with your landlord.
Got it.
Yeah, and communicate. Because I can guarantee you, if you stop communicating with your landlord, you just stop making payments, you stop answering their phone, your landlord's going to evict you as soon as possible.
Yes.
So be honest and upfront with your landlord. Tell them what's going on. Explain the situation. If you have to prove that, yes, you worked in the restaurant industry and you're now going to work, or whatever it is.
Right.
Or yes, you get tested positive. Yes, you got sick, or a family member got sick. Tell them your hardships. Be honest with what you can do.
Got it.
How much money. And then, again, just like we've told the landlords, be flexible and work and not greedy and
Yes.
work with your tenants. tenants need to do the same thing.
Got it.
Right? They can't be greedy and try and get free rent or things that if they can still make certain payments because remember, tenants, if you don't pay your rent, your landlord may not pay his mortgage, and you may end up being evicted anyway in a foreclosure.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
So we need to work together, both
Great
as tenants
advice.
and landlords, to figure out what we can do, and again, negotiate it out, come up with a plan. Plan. Put it into writing, signing, and sign it.
Great advice. Jeff, thank you so much for sharing all of that. Wow, we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to dive into a nightmare story on evictions. Yeah, actually, it's the nightmare story. Yeah, it's our nightmare story. Jeff and I had partnered on a deal, and it's our story. So stay tuned. I've got plenty of nightmare stories. We could do the rest of the show on nightmare stories. All right, stay tuned. We'll be right back. With smartphones and technology making life a little easier, the Snappers has also been designed to make life a little easier for you and your pup. Whether you're out on a stroll in the park, or possibly a walk through the city, or maybe even a hike up in the mountains, the Snap Leash is the perfect leash for you. The Snap Leash can easily and conveniently convert into 7 types of leashes, making the Snap Leash the most convenient leash in the world. What other leash do you know that is 7 leashes in one? With the Snap Leash having appearances on the Today Show in New York City, TV 47 in Dallas, Texas, and ABC4 right here on Midday, Utah, you are definitely going to want to take a peek at what the Snap Leash can do for you and your best friend. Make life a little easier for you and your pup. Visit www.snapleash.com today. All right, guys, we are back. It is 1640 AM K-Talk Radio. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. Our special guest is Jeff Braylio. He is sharing some amazing information for those of you who are tenants or landlords or just struggling to pay your mortgage payment due to loss of income. Also would like to thank our sponsors, which is Snap Leash and Protect Our Angels. I also want to say a thank you to Gatorade for providing me the beverage to quench my thirst while doing this radio show. All right, Jeff, we are back. It is time for the nightmare story. So, evicting tenants. So, with all the talk about evictions and lack of ability to evict, we thought it was very fitting to tell a nightmare story on eviction. So, Jeff, why don't you dive into the story, please?
Yoshi and I actually had a property that we were actually looking to flip.
Yes.
But we bought it, and there was a tenant already in the unit. The tenant was the son of the owner.
That's right.
Woman.
Yes.
And he was a crackhead.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
and his mom knew it.
Yes. Hadn't paid his mom rent in over a year.
Yeah. And so she was struggling, and they didn't communicate, and or she didn't want to evict her son and all that. So we picked up the property and needed to start with the eviction to get the crackhead out of the house.
Right.
So we started the eviction, and normally, and here's kind of one tip on evictions, and this is, again, we don't know what the next 4 months are really going to be like with eviction.
So true.
In standard times, it's either a 30-day or a 15-day notice to evict someone. If they're under a lease agreement, it's probably 30 days. If they're not under a lease or they're on a month-to-month at that point, it's a 15-day. But what you have to remember is that 15 days, that 15th day has to fall within the month that you want to evict.
Oh, right.
So if you provide notice on, let's say, April 10th,
yes,
and you provide the 15-day notice on April 10th, right?
Yep.
15 days later is the 25th.
Yep.
You can start eviction on the 30th of April, the end of that month.
Right.
Okay? You have to wait till the end of the month on which that 15th day falls.
Got it.
If you provide that notice on, let's say, April 20th,
yes,
the 15th day is then the 5th of May.
Yes.
And so you can't start the eviction until the 30th or 31st of May.
Right.
So depending on the timing, be aware of that.
Yes.
And what you're evicting for, because if you're evicting on something else on a lease agreement, you might have to find 30 days. But if it's non-payment of rent or lease to lease or something like that, it may be 15 days. But you have to be aware of that timing. Okay?
Yes.
And if you're going to evict, make sure you get those notices out prior to the 15th of the month, because then otherwise you're going to wait an extra full month
Right.
to evict.
Right.
Okay. So when we bought it, we actually closed at the end of a month.
Yes.
And we provided the 15-day notice towards in the last week of the month. So we had to wait until the end of the next month. So we had to wait about 5 weeks
Yes.
before we could even start the eviction, the actual court process to evict.
Right.
So we did that. Did he challenge it at all? I think he
did. Yeah, he did challenge
He
it.
tried to challenge it. So
Yep.
it ended up taking, normally most tenants don't even show up at the eviction hearing.
Yep.
And the judge
At court.
stamps something and it's done
Yes.
in 30 seconds. It's, cookie cutter. They just push people through the line.
Yes.
But tenants may show up.
Yes.
Um,
And I wasn't there, but I was told he showed up with a contract on a napkin that appeared to be forged of his mother's. He forged his mom's signature
Yeah.
on a napkin.
On a napkin, yeah. And I don't think the judge bought it.
I don't think the judge bought it either.
They're pretty smart.
Yeah.
So normally, it takes about 7 to 14 days to
Yes.
kind of get through that court process and to get the actual eviction notice. And to say, okay, you've been evicted, you got to get out.
Right.
That can take 4 to 6 weeks if tenants really kind of push it and have some kind of justification to stop the eviction.
Yes.
And if you're a tenant, we didn't mention this earlier, most likely, if you're being evicted and you believe you're being wrongfully evicted, your best bet is like a Utah Legal Services or Utah Legal Aid societies to represent you in the eviction. You're probably not going to use a lawyer as a tenant because the amount in controversy is only a few $1,000s.
Yes.
And you're going to pay a few $1,000s to an attorney to represent you in the eviction.
Right.
So most attorneys just don't take on tenants as clients in eviction,
Got it.
which is why Utah Legal Aid and societies exist to help tenants
Got it.
defend themselves. So if you're a tenant, check out some of those sources. Some of them do have income qualifications. If you
Okay.
make too much money, you can't use them. That kind of thing.
Okay.
But they may have some suggestions or information that kind of help you with the eviction.
Got it. Got it.
But anyways, back to our story.
Yeah.
So we got the court order evicting.
Yep.
And the guy wouldn't.
Yes.
So we had a squatter.
So we had a squatter,
Right.
at this point. He refused to leave still.
He lost the court case and refused to leave. So we had to call the cops, the sheriff, and change the locks
Yes.
on the door,
Yes.
lock him out.
Yep.
At which point we were then required to hold on to his property for 15 days, which adds more time.
Exactly.
So we held on to his property. And during that 15 days, and even a little shortly after that, if I remember correctly, of course, he was still sneaking back in and living in the house. His stuff was there. And we locked him out, but he was breaking in.
Yes.
And sleeping there. And then after about the 15 days, we got our dump guys, our trash guys, and he came in and started hauling all of his stuff out.
Into a big dumpster.
So we threw away all of his stuff.
Yep.
And then he kept breaking in.
And then
after that, he kept breaking in.
Yes.
So we were at least able to get, it took, I think, about 2.5 months.
Yes.
About 2.5 months.
Of trying to get him out.
Before we got his stuff out and we could actually start the project.
It was a long time.
That's a long time.
60 days.
That's about as long as it'll get here in Utah.
Yes.
It's 2.5 months. And we could have done it in 1.5 months if we had provided that 15-day notice earlier in the month. We didn't own the house, so technically we couldn't provide it, but if we had done it on behalf of the previous landlord, the guy's mother,
yes,
we at least could have got the process started,
right,
and saved ourselves a month,
right.
But again, you may find yourself sometimes you just have to evict when you have to evict.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it's true.
So you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks, kind of on the good side, 2 to 3 months on the long side, and of course, when we start doing evictions again in a couple of months, and the health crisis is over, probably you're looking at possibly months.
Exactly.
Because of the backlog.
Yep. And for those who don't know, so when you do evict somebody, and the judge allows you now to have the constable or the sheriff come and remove them from the home, they call it a lockout. And so when you do this lockout, the law requires you to hold on to the belongings, the property of the person there, their bed, their furniture, everything that's in there, all their belongings for 14 to 15 days, right? It's 15, is it 14 or 15?
I don't remember.
I think it's 14 and
yeah.
I think the eviction attorney said it's 14, but if you wait 15, then you're definitely past
clear,
it. Yeah. So we waited 15 days.
It could come in of how you count the days and what the first day is like.
Exactly. And to my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but the belongings, all his belongings in the home, we could have removed, put them in a self-storage, but now we're paying for self-storage.
So we would have to pay movers to move the belongings, pay for the storage to hold them for those couple of weeks. And then, of course, I don't want to hold them on forever, so they would pay the movers again to move them to the dump.
Exactly.
So it just made more sense to leave them in the house for 8 days.
Absolutely.
Wait on the project.
Yes, absolutely. So in our case, it made sense to just leave them there for 15 days. But if you find yourself in a situation where you're feeling like, hey, I need to get this individual out, the judge has ordered the lockout, you now can take the belongings somewhere that you have to store in a safe place, because they can hold you liable if anything goes missing. So let's say you get a self-storage, but of course you're adding an expense to it. But maybe for some people that is the best move, to empty out the house. Yeah. For whatever reason.
Yeah. You just got to determine what your costs are on moving, holding, storage, and what else you're doing with the property.
Yes. And to add to the story, Jeff, you weren't there when the constable did the lockout. I had to show up, and I don't think I'd ever changed a doorknob before. Like, I mean, I flip houses, but my contractors do that, right?
I've changed about 1,000 doorknobs. They're the worst.
They are so hard.
They're actually really difficult to do.
It was, and it's like I've changed interior doorknobs, right? Like hallway doors to bedrooms. Those aren't as difficult, but it was summer. I was sweating. This house had no AC because we ended up putting AC. I'm trying to change this doorknob as fast as I can. And, the constable, the sheriff, is just standing at the front door making sure nobody comes and sneaks up on me. I just remember going, this thing is not fitting. It's not working. I mean, taking it off was easy. Two screws and then the thing comes out. But putting it back in, it wouldn't close. So I got it in there, but then it just didn't line up and it wouldn't close. It wouldn't lock, and took forever for me, so that my nightmare added on.
I know. Yeah, I don't do those things anymore.
Yes.
The 5-minute projects you think are super easy.
Yes.
It will take you a half an hour and you'll be custom.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Pay someone to do it.
Pay someone to do it. So since then, on all my lockouts that I've ever had to participate in, I bring a handyman with me who knows how to do that really well and fast.
Speaking of which, I need to text my
yeah, exactly. All right, guys, it's time for another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to be discussing the changes that Jeff has seen in the market. Jeff is a real estate attorney. He also is an escrow officer for title. So I got some questions for him to see what he has recognized as far as market changes due to this pandemic. So stay tuned. Hi, I'm Yoshi Shiraki, the author of the book, My Body's Just For Me, the book written for children to educate children on the prevention of child abuse. With the assistance of multiple best-selling author Richard Paul Evans, we were able to publish this book as a tool to help break the ice in an easy and innocent way to help children understand and learn how to speak up and communicate. I've been invited numerous times onto Good Things Utah to discuss the importance of good communication with your child in regards to abuse, and also to discuss how the book My Body's Just For Me is a great tool for every parent when having that tricky conversation with their children. For more information on the book My Body's Just For Me, please visit www.protectourangels.com today. And remember, the more we focus on prevention, the less we'll have to focus on rehabilitation. All right, guys, we are back. This is K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. I'm your host, Yoshi Shiraki. Our special guest is Jeff Brailio, and we are talking about market change now over the remainder of the show. We've been talking about all the eviction news that the governor's released, and so if you've missed any part of that, definitely go to our website, www.utahhomesweethome.com. Click on the social media links. We post all of these shows on YouTube, which you'll be able to access through our website. So, Jeff, okay, so maybe from an attorney standpoint or maybe from an escrow officer standpoint, what changes are you seeing right now in the market? Because I see them as a flipper and as a real estate agent. Right. What changes are you seeing in the market due to this pandemic?
We're really just beginning to see some effects.
Okay.
And really, because, it kind of came in March, people had already paid their rent, people already signed purchase contracts, people were already sort of in the middle of escrow and closing. Most closings are still happening.
Okay.
Some are starting to drop out.
Okay.
If they were earlier in the process, they're more likely to drop out than if they were in the later. And it's going to be mostly buyers going to be dropping out due to lack of qualifying for a mortgage, that maybe they lost their job.
Got it.
And they're not going to get a mortgage. Remember that so far there's nothing that changes any of the legality of contract.
Gotcha.
So if you signed a purchase agreement,
Yeah.
the only way you get out of it is on certain conditions.
Right. Right.
And so we're still seeing kind of most of them go through. The investor world is going to just shift. It's been kind of a flipper's paradise because of appreciating home rates.
Right.
You could buy rather inexpensively, flip it, make some cash. The problem with flipping is going to be the turnaround retail sale.
Yes.
Especially if people can't qualify for mortgages, there's not going to be a retail market to sell in, and therefore prices will probably come down, and most investors are going to be shifting to more buy and hold. So investors that are financially solvent, so these are investors that prepared for this, and we've been, if you've ever talked to me, it's always about having 3 to 6 months reserves.
Yes.
In that account for vacancies and evictions and things of that nature, so that your
So
business
important
is
now.
covered. And in your personal life, that you can, you and your family can survive for 6 months without income.
Yep.
And unfortunately, a lot of people don't listen to that.
Yeah.
They're going to be stuck. But if you have, if you're financially solvent, you still have your job. So a lot of jobs are not coming back this is probably going to hit the middle class and lower middle class rung much harder than anybody else.
Got it.
Because of the industries that those people worked in.
Right.
If they're saying right now that 70% of restaurants, the mom and pop restaurants, aren't coming back at all,
Oh, gosh.
then
Wow.
the people that worked in the restaurant industry won't have any jobs to come back to, even though the health scare is over. Their restaurant won't come back. And so that's really we're going to have to kind of see of how that affects them, probably more so. And so the rent's going to be a bigger issue. But as far as in the investor world, if you've got a job and you can qualify for a loan and you've got some cash, it's going to be a smorgasbord of finding deals and picking up property.
Right.
A lot of investors will naturally drop out. That we saw this in 07, 08, 09, that there was this big swell of people jumping in the real estate industry. And then a year later, I'd say 80% of them were gone.
I agree.
Literally gone.
Yeah, I remember that.
We've done better with education, real estate education. We got more support, and hopefully the word's been out there. So I think the real estate investors will stay strong. And kind of what I wanted to talk about, I mentioned this earlier with yours before we went on air, is how the economy works and what we call multipliers.
Okay.
So here's, I have my housekeeper. Comes once a month.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
I could, look at my budget and say, okay, during these economic times, I'm going to eliminate certain expenses. And I think every family should do that.
Yes.
Make sure your family's protected first.
Yes.
But can I afford my housekeeper?
Right.
Yes, I personally can. I can afford that. And so when I pay her, let's say she comes and cleans and I pay her $100.
Yes.
That's a $100 bill goes into her hand.
Yes.
Then what I've done is I've just added $100 to the economy.
Right.
She then goes to the grocery store.
Right.
And she buys fruits and vegetables.
Yeah.
So she hands that $100 over to the store clerk.
Yes.
So she contributed another $100 to the economy.
Right.
The store then pays their employees.
Right.
Right, to work the checkout line or stock the shelves.
Yes.
So they pay that $100 out in a wage to their employee.
Right.
Those employees then go to the Gap.
Yep.
And they buy a T-shirt and they hand that $100 over to the Gap.
Yes.
And they've added another $100 to the economy.
Yes.
Gap then pays their employees that same $100 bill.
Yeah.
And then they go out and they go to a restaurant.
Right.
So my $100 bill actually created $500 worth of economic growth
Got it.
in the marketplace.
Got it.
Now that assumes that that $100 bill gets spent 100% every
Yeah.
time. And that's what some people put money into savings.
Yeah.
Some goes to taxes, etc. But that's what we call the multiplier effect of money.
Got it.
So the more money, and that's one of the reasons the federal government is trying to get money into the hands of people.
Got it.
Because if they put $350 billion, I
Yes.
think that's about the bill, that amount going to direct payments to taxpayers.
Okay.
That hundreds of billions of dollars then gets spent at stores.
Got
who
it.
Then pay employees, and that becomes 700 billion, a trillion, 1.2 trillion, etc. That's the multiplier effect of money.
Got it.
So it's about being able, continuing to provide that economic stimulus where you can.
Gotcha.
And the more you do, the greater effect it's going to have on the economy. And as real estate investors in particular, and those in the real estate industry, again, I said this earlier, well, if we're not greedy, and we're looking out for others, and I think we're going to talk a little about hard money lenders, and if we're all working together
Yeah.
to make this happen, we
Yeah.
can have a multiplier effect on our local real estate market. And we can actually do a tremendous amount
Got
in
it.
fact, to help bolster up our market by, if we work with other investors, let's say you're an investor, you've got a rental property, your tenants had to leave,
Yeah.
you've struggled, personally you're in financial straits, you've lost your job, you can't make that mortgage payment on that rental property.
Right.
You could let it go to foreclosure, and that's going to make things worse.
Got it.
Or you can find another investor who might come in and save the day.
Right.
They might be able to pick it up from you, seller financing.
Yep.
They might be able to partner with you.
Yep.
And inject some cash into it. Because remember, everyone has a different situation.
Yes.
Just because you're struggling doesn't mean everybody is struggling.
Right.
And if those who are not struggling are in it for the good of everybody and not like, I'm going to start soaking up all these properties, I'm going to wait till rock bottom prices, pick them up pennies on the dollar,
Yeah.
and I'm going to become a bazillionaire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's going to have a negative effect, and it's going to make everything worse for everybody else.
Right.
And you.
That makes sense.
If you work with other investors, you work with your tenants, that's why we're saying work with tenants, you can keep things afloat and you can keep the economy moving, and it'll be much less dramatic if we're all kind of working into this together. And I truly believe we can do it.
Absolutely. Wow. Very, very valuable information. Very well said. I loved how you described all that.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. Okay, awesome. So you talked about hard money lenders. Just curious, I'm starting to see hard money loans freeze up. Have you started to see that?
Yeah, and I'm a hard money lender, and we're stockpiling cash.
Gotcha.
And I think that's going to be true for just about everybody in the country right now.
Gotcha.
Is whatever cash is coming in, we're going to want to save.
Yes.
My guess is, though, right now we're just saving it just kind of through the health crisis, because during the health crisis, really nothing is going on.
Gotcha.
And we want to know what the economic is going to be effect after the health crisis is over. And because we don't know that, that's why a lot of cash lenders are holding on to the cash. Now, that doesn't mean they're not out there. They are still out there. They are still lending. I think that the criteria is just going to be a little bit different.
Got it.
And it is a short-term thing right now.
Yeah.
We hard money lenders, we want our money out there working because that's how we earn income. So
Right.
we want to get it out there.
Yes.
It's just sort of a little bit of wait and see just for a few weeks, just to kind of see how this is really going to play out, how long it's going to be. But there's definitely kind of a stockpiling of cash reserve. And then that also tells us what kind of financial position we are in.
Got it.
Like if I get all my loans back, I can stockpile it. Like, okay, here's what I've got. Here's what I need. Here's how long I can last. And then here's how much I can loan out.
Right. Right.
And then we can start making the loans again. So I think that market will kind of rebound fairly quickly as soon as we get a better handle on what's going on.
Okay. Got it. Got it. Okay, perfect. I think we have time for about one more question.
Perfect.
And if your sibling came to you, loved one, family member, somebody you really care about, or yourself, they say with every negative, there's a positive. With every recession, that's where most people have become millionaires in real estate. What are you doing right now personally to prepare if we go into something crazy negative to come out of it crazy positive?
3 pieces of advice. First, stay in tune and connected and informed.
Okay.
So really focus on education if you're in the real estate investing market. Or even if you're not, just stay informed, stay calm, and take care of yourself first.
Okay.
Because if you are healthy and motivated, you're going to have the same multiplier effect on others.
Got it.
So if you, Yoshi, are feeling good, feeling optimistic, feeling healthy, that's going to make your family feel better, healthier, happier, more optimistic.
Makes sense.
They're going to infect other people with that optimism, and so on and so on and so on.
Yes.
Okay, so focus on you, focus on your family, stay educated and informed. If you're an investor, you need to shift modes, right?
Okay, yes.
If you're elected, this is what I do, and this is all I do, and you could get stuck because what you've been doing for the last 4 years no longer works.
Right.
So listen to experts, listen to those who've been around for a lot longer, listen to how other people got through things. And most flippers are probably going to switch over to buy and holds.
Right.
And pick up rental properties because prices will come down. And a lot of investors have been waiting
Yeah.
for this change in price.
Right.
We've been holding off on buying rentals because prices have been so high.
Yeah.
So it's about adapting.
Got
right?
it.
Staying informed, number one. Adapting, number two. And really being, I will say this, is being out for the common good.
Yeah.
Being part of a community that is helping each other as opposed to just yourself.
Wonderful advice. Thank you, Jeff. How can people get in touch with you if they wanted to reach out?
Yeah, they can call me at the office at 801-560-2180. The best way is just call the office, and we're doing free consults with landlords and clients, on what to do during these times, or if you need anything, we're happy to help.
Wonderful, wonderful, guys. And if you've missed any part of this show, and if you did, I highly recommend checking out our social media links because this show will be posted on our YouTube channel probably on Tuesday, Wednesday. We have a weekend. Of course, we're on the weekend, so the editor won't get to this immediately. But by Wednesday, you can definitely check out our social media platform. Listen to this. Jeff gave amazing advice from a legal standpoint to hopefully benefit some of you out there who are in a position that's kind of sticky right now due to the COVID-19.
Yes.
So, Jeff, thanks again for joining me today.
Happy to be here.
I really appreciate it. And
Staying our 6 feet apart.
Yes. And I hope everybody has a spectacular rest of the day.